All righty, team. Hey, everyone. Thomas Rowe here. Sorry for running a little bit late. We're running late, so we just knocked out a few push-ups because it's important to be disciplined when you're or be held accountable. Just kidding. We go noon sharp. Tell us where you're joining from in the chat. Drop in where you're from and what concerns that you might have. Share the link right now with an athlete, parent, or athletic director who needs to hear this conversation. Today's revenue sharing checklist is in the chat. Grab it before we start. Coach Bronk is here. Aaron, my co-host and co-founder of Blueprint to Blue Chip. So let's get going. Let's get right into it. Weeks 1 through 7 replay links. Those are available for you as well. And welcome to NIL Office Hours Week 8. Coach and I were just talking about this before we got started. Time flies when you're having fun. Every Tuesday at noon, 30 minutes, one topic, real answers. And here's the bridge from last week. Week 7. Know who's allowed to represent you. Week 8, right now, understand the money that representations are now helping you to navigate. Because the House settlement created the biggest financial change in history of college athletics. And most athletes are spending money they don't fully understand. Coach, before we head up the slides, one question for you. What's the most common misconception athletes have about revenue sharing right now, and why is that an expensive lesson?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and that's why, when I focus in a lot about NIL and revenue sharing is, the biggest misconception is student athletes and families think that revenue sharing is another NIL deal.
Right.
And that's not. NIL is entrepreneurial income. Revenue sharing is institutional income. And they're two separate entities.
That's right.
And so, it's the money that participating schools may distribute directly to athletes under the House settlement framework, as you mentioned, which is completely different from a business paying an athlete for an endorsement. That's the biggest error that student athletes and families make.
No question. Assume that number was bigger and they spent accordingly. That changes today. Week 8 of 12, 7 weeks complete. Revenue sharing today, brand protection next week. The through line from last week, know who's allowed to operate in the ecosystem. This week, understand the money flowing through it. Okay, 20.5 million, but not for you, not for all. Coach, plain language, what is revenue sharing? Because I think athletes need to understand the term and assume they understand it. Most don't. I know you touched on a little bit, but do a deep dive.
Yeah, revenue sharing comes from the school's athletic revenue pool. Okay, the reported $20.5 million is not what one athlete receives. Okay, it is the maximum institutional revenue sharing pool, and that's subject to annual adjustment. Okay, for schools that choose to participate, every school determines how to distribute its own pool with applicable rules, and every athlete's amount may be different. So there is not a one-size-fits-all formula to this distribution of $20.5 million.
That's right.
All right, and so that's what the revenue sharing basically breaks down to.
Gotcha. Coach, go ahead and tell the audience briefly who you are and what makes you qualify, because I think your credentials are remarkable.
No, I appreciate that, Thomas. So I'm a retired athletic administrator and head coach for the last 30 years here in the state of Texas. I retired a little over a year ago, and now I serve as a financial professional where my focus is on NIL and revenue sharing education for student athletes, for parents, for athletic administrators, and coaches. Awesome. It's a big passion of mine. And again, this platform just allows me to get that information out there to a bigger audience. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate both of you for that.
Of course. We're happy to help. We love our collaboration here. So this is one that always kind of stumps me. And if it stumps me, I'm sure it does with families and athletes. What's the difference between revenue share and NIL deal? Because athletes are receiving both now, and I think the lines are pretty blurry.
Yeah, NIL basically is this. It's a third-party businesses pay the athletes. Okay, car dealerships, restaurants, sporting goods stores, local businesses. The athletes perform a service. With revenue sharing, schools distribute revenue directly to the athletes through its program and agreement. It's not negotiated like a traditional NIL endorsement deal. Okay, so NIL is earned in the marketplace. Revenue sharing comes through your institution's participation in the settlement framework.
Awesome. Let's invite Aaron in. Aaron, good to see you. Good to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us. With respect to rev share, NIL, accountability over excuses, give us your insight.
Well, I think it goes back to, I mean, we repeat this a lot, but we repeat it a lot because it's what's important. You have to really understand where's your money coming from? What are you getting? And then what are the expectations that are tied to that money? Money isn't coming to you for free. So there's going to be something that is required of you, whether that's your performance on the field, whether that's how long you stay at the school. There's a variety of things that you will be held accountable to, which means you have to have radical ownership of what you now are responsible for if you want to be making these big deals that are now coming as part of attending the university. Specifically what he's talking about with revenue sharing.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you so much. Well, team, I cannot stress enough, I'm not going to give you financial advice. I'm just going to simply plant a seed. The difference between if you have the luxury of going pro, you become a W-2 employee. Right now, at this level, you are at 1099. You might want to touch base with John or another financial advisor or tax accountant about setting up an S-Corp or a LLC. But that being said, a $20.5 million is the ceiling, Coach. Most athletes are nowhere near that proportional share of that number. How is revenue share actually distributed? Because I know athletes assume it's equal, and it's not.
Right. Now, every school can develop its own distribution model. Okay. So schools, most of the time, schools consider the sport, the roster status, the institutional priorities, and other factors described in the school's plan. There is no national formula. All right. So, and on top of that, you got to think about, like you were talking about, and we'll get into it in a second, but a big thing that plays into that are fees that are associated with it. But there is no national formula on how this money gets distributed. It's completely up to the universities.
Gotcha. What about the athlete who finds that their share is much smaller than they expected? What's the conversation they need to have, and who do they have it with?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be basically when those, when you have that conversation, it's going to be with your coaching staff, because a lot of times now, you've got general managers who are coming in and working with the student athletes on top of the head coach. I mean, there is a designated person that is directly involved, that are going to be having these conversations with the student athletes. And so those are the conversations you're going to want to have, is the point person that the university has for each sport, or if it's for the men's department or the women's department. Those are the conversations you have. You don't have that conversation with your position coach or your head coach.
Right.
This is going to be through the designated party that the university athletic department has set up.
Yep. Aaron, I'm going to get you to chime in here, because one of the most important foundations of Blueprint is the caddy framework. We already got into character. Now we're getting into an accountability. Now we're getting into discipline over motivation. Sum that up for us with respect to rev share.
Well, I think, again, it just comes down to whatever you are agreeing to, whatever you've signed, you have to follow through with that.
Right.
So it's not open to negotiation once you've signed it. And so that's really important. So before you get locked into anything, you need to make sure that you understand everything, and then B, you can execute everything that they're asking of you. And we got balloons going on over here with me. So there you go.
Well, I mean, you definitely want to make sure that you touch base with your compliance office at your university or on your campus and ask the specific distribution amount. Get it in writing. That conversation should take about 15 minutes. Skipping it costs you thousands, not just in rev share, but also in taxes. That's the discipline over motivation. So, Coach, Walk us through the tax reality, because I genuinely think athletes believe the money is different from their NIL income from a tax standpoint, and it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Revenue sharing money is generally expected to be taxable income.
Right.
Okay. And that surprises many athletes. Okay. And so the thing that I always have to remind student athletes is scholarship money and revenue sharing are completely different. Okay. And so revenue sharing generally creates taxable income. So, I mean, if you receive NIL appearances, camp income, autographs, social media sponsorships, those income streams may also be taxable. And so the big important thing for you student athletes, keep all copies, okay, all records of contracts, the 1099, the W-2s, if it's applicable, bank deposits, invoices, receipts, payment confirmations. Never throw paperwork away.
That's right.
The next thing is build a team, especially when it comes to the tax reality. Build your team. Parents, CPAs, tax professionals, an attorney, financial professional, your compliance office, an agent. Those people are going to be very, very important for you when it comes to the tax reality. And then I subscribe, and I try to tell kids, student athletes all the time, you need to think about applying what I call the 3-bucket rule. And what that is bucket number 1 is taxes. Bucket number 2 is savings. And bucket number 3 are living expenses. Okay. It's not about what you make, it's what you keep. Okay. And so those are some areas of importance for athletes when it comes to the tax reality.
No question. Speaking of tax reality, September 15th is right around the corner. We covered this in Brick 5 2 weeks ago. How does revenue share change the picture of athletes who are already behind on estimated taxes?
The big thing is always first of all, just own the mistake. If you miss the filing date or whatever, that's why building a team is really important, because they will be the ones who help hold you accountable to those dates. And then simply just make sure you have all your ducks in a row, and then get it filed ASAP, and to make up for any lost time. You may have a fee. They may waive and say, hey, we understand, this whole dynamic has changed. It's a learning experience. They're not, contrary to what people think, they're not out there to get you. They want to educate you. And so it just makes sure that we are, that you're just being proactive in that area.
Totally. Absolutely. Aaron, the system, because the fix is simple. When I say the system, basically money that you set aside for savings. Why don't you dig into that a little bit?
Well, I think I would just reinforce what John has already shared. I think in order for you to be successful and build the life that you want, it's not about just spending whatever comes in. It's about allocating your money to live now, but set aside money that you want for things down the road, whether that's maybe you want to start a business or build a business. Like some of you athletes are making really incredible money at a very early age. So how can you use that money and have it work for you for what you want to build in your life? Not just like, oh my gosh, I have all this money right now. I can take my girlfriend out. I can buy this car. I can do this. I can do that. Like part of that requires some amount of discipline and delayed gratification in order for you to, I think, really reap the benefits of what you're now receiving. And so I would just ask you to think about the bigger picture of what you want in your life, not in the moment right now. It's all fun and games, but what do you really want, and how can this money work for you so that you're not just blowing through it?
That's right. That's right. Look at a team about 25, 30%, every payment automatically put it aside. The money also comes with obligations most athletes never read. The money comes with obligations, Coach. What compliance obligations come with revenue sharing that most athletes are completely missing or misunderstand?
I think basically it's just setting money aside.
Mm-hmm.
Athletes have just got to be disciplined in setting a portion of taxable income, so they're prepared for when taxes are due. I said it a few minutes ago, it's not about the money you make, it's about the money that you save. The exact amount depends on individual circumstances. So that's why it's so important to work with a CPA, with a tax professional, because if taxes are not withheld, okay, that doesn't automatically mean that taxes aren't owed. And so just make sure that you educate yourself on the process of the revenue sharing, how much you make, how much you need to set aside. You just can't spend willy-nilly. And I know that sounds like an old person phrasing, but you just can't spend it without accountability.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Rev Share, NIL, and we have the transfer portal. This is one where athletes are absolutely not thinking about when they sign Rev Share agreements. What do they need to understand before they enter the portal?
Yeah, your contract doesn't disappear just because you enter the transfer portal.
That's right.
Okay, and so before transferring, you have to ask some questions here. The first one is, what happens to future payments?
Okay.
Can payments stop? Are there repayment provisions? And we see that a lot where schools are now going after the athletes who transfer schools. They want their money back.
Right.
Okay. Does the agreement terminate? Because every agreement is different. So ask the questions. Ignorance is not bliss. I know we say that every week, but it's true. You have to be a proactive thinker when it comes to these areas, because these are areas, again, that's why education is so important, because it's ever evolving. And right now it's just money that's being thought of. It's not the stuff behind the scenes that are getting thought of.
That's right. That's
right. And so it's really important. And I would also recommend always involve your compliance office before making any major NIL or revenue sharing decisions.
100%.
Ask questions before signing, not after.
100%. No question. Great advice. Aaron, let's wrap up the caddy with integrity over image online. Basically, you want to just follow through on what you've signed, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think you summed it up really well. I mean, if you want the school to keep their word in the contract, which means you also have to keep your word in the contract. And so if you don't like the terms of the agreement, don't be signing it. You got to negotiate for what you want. So you don't get to change your mind. If you agree to it, then you have to understand you're going to be held accountable to what's outlined in that. And so if you don't like some of it, then you better negotiate and change it. But you got to follow through on what you agree to.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. So let's get into some Q&A. We've got some questions coming in from the chat. Coach, our son's school hasn't communicated anything about Rev Share, and he doesn't know if he's even eligible. How does he find this out?
The big thing is just you've got to go to your compliance office, go to the general manager, whoever the operations person is in charge of NIL and revenue sharing inside your athletic department or your sport, and simply ask them. If they have not reached out to you and they're not sharing information, it could simply mean that they're not participating in it.
Got it.
Because again, it all depends on if the school is participating in the settlement.
Yep. We got I think Kurt, this is a question from Kurt in the chat. He said, I'm seriously considered transferring. We actually touched on this, but Kurt, pay attention here. This is for you. I'm seriously considering transferring. I have a revenue share agreement at my current school. What do I need to do before I enter the portal? We touched on it earlier, Coach.
Yeah. The big thing is that you, again, need to ask questions. Ask what happens to your future payments. Okay. Are there any repayment provisions in that? Does that agreement automatically terminate?
Yep.
Those are some of the questions that you need to ask. You need to also get with your compliance office on that. Okay. Because one of the things you don't want to do is do anything before you enter that transfer portal that's going to affect your eligibility.
100%.
Okay. So the big thing is always asking those questions, because it's just, again, you're playing with your income here. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed.
100%. This is a great question. I don't think it's ever popped up in any of our Q&As. How does rev share affect financial aid? I'm on a partial scholarship, and I'm worried about what receiving additional income means.
Depending on the level of your school, because I know, like, for example, Division II, when it comes, they don't necessarily participate in full-fledged revenue sharing, but a lot of times what has happened is that rev share has basically replaced the stipend.
Gotcha.
And so again, that's going to be where communication is so vitally important between the staff and the student athletes. And that's one of the big areas that I've been trying to press on with administrators and coaches across the country, is that, communication, and education on this process.
Right.
And I get hey, we got to focus on the sport. We got to focus on our performance on the field, on the court, but we're also running businesses now. And that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so, set aside the time to educate your athletes on this. You got time. Let's set aside time to educate the athletes on what they need to know about this process.
Yep. Another question. This is Malik, redshirt freshman. I received my first revenue sharing payment last month, and I already spent most of it. What do I do right now? Malik, you're not alone. I'm glad you're here. Coach, what do you say?
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, is talking about when I talked about the bucket rule. Okay, Malik, because you have a responsibility now that when you're pulling in this income, you just can't go out and spend it. You've got to set aside money now for taxes. Okay, you got to set aside money for savings, and you got to set aside for living expenses. All right, so you've got to make sure that you're being responsible with that money. And I totally get it. If I'm an 18, 19, 20-year-old and I'm getting a $50,000 check right there, oh, you bet that thing's burning a hole in my pocket. Okay, and that's why building a solid team that's not just going to be yes men for you. They're going to be people who are going to help you, walk you through the steps and the process on why it's important to set aside money throughout this process.
That's right. All righty, team. Let's get into the final slide. We're like the Marines. We get in here, we blow things up, and we head out. We promised you 30 minutes, so we are in and out. Coach, know your number. Set aside 25-30% of every payment. Read what you signed. Go ahead and build up on that. Take us into the close.
I'm sorry, Thomas, you were breaking up. I could not hear that full thing.
Coach, if you can't read my mind, this is going to be a really hard webinar, right? Technology team, technology. Aaron, I think would you mind muting that? I think that's what's going on as far as the feedback goes. Thanks, Aaron. Coach, I was saying, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Know your number. Set aside 25-30% of every payment. Read what you signed. Go ahead and take us home and close us out.
Yeah, I think the big thing today that I hope that everybody gets, all of our athletes, families, coaches, administrators get out of this is revenue sharing isn't just about receiving money. It's about understanding responsibility.
That's right.
The athletes who succeed in this new era won't simply be the ones who receive the biggest payments. They'll be the ones who understand contracts, taxes, compliance, eligibility, and how to make wise financial decisions. Money creates opportunities, but education protects them.
100%. 100%. All righty, team. As promised, 30 minutes in and out. The revenue sharing checklist is in the chat right now. Download it. Hold on to it. Everything we covered today is in that document. Capital Wealth Strategies in the chat. Book the call before September 15th. That's the next move. Next Tuesday, August 11th, week 9, brand protection. Your name, your image, and your rights. How to protect all three. Register in the chat right now, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Coach, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to enlighten us and educate the athletes and the families on the other end of this webinar. Aaron, thank you for being a magician and making the magic happen. All right, team, we will see you next week.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I love that we have a question that came through. Sorry, Aaron's slacking on our duties.
Fire
I
away.
didn't see this. So it says,
Marcus.
we
All
like
right.
Marcus. Yeah. So sometimes they come in like this. How often has coach seen rev share be classified as royalty, so passive income versus self-employed income, as this has a potential tax implication?
Marcus, that's a great question. All right. I love it. Right now, there isn't a single tax treatment that applies to every revenue sharing payment. The classification depends on the facts and circumstances, and most importantly, the underlying agreement. In many cases, revenue sharing payments are likely to be treated as compensation for services, resulting in ordinary income, earned income. However, there may be situations where payments that are tied to licensing intellectual property or other specific rights could be treated differently. So simply calling a payment a royalty in a contract doesn't automatically make it royalty income for tax purposes. The IRS will look at the substance of the arrangement. Also, and this is one of the biggest reasons why I emphasize that every athlete needs a qualified CPA or tax professional who understands sports taxation. Because the tax consequences affect not only income tax, but potentially self-employment tax, estimated tax payments, the state jock tax obligations. Athletes should never assume all NIL or revenue sharing income is taxed the same.
Awesome. That's great. Marcus, thanks so much for reaching out to us. We haven't talked to you or we haven't connected with you, but we'll definitely do that. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Anything else, Aaron? Any other surprises? Anything from the Easter Bunny or from Santa Claus coming through?
Love it.
You know what? I am the damn Easter Bunny, the very end Santa Claus. Okay, so you better watch out.
We love to have fun.
Kids.
We love to have fun here. So team, thank you so much.
100%.
Coach, thank you so much. We might be a little lighthearted team, but do not take rev share and NIL lightly, and don't make fun of that because it will come back to bite you. Team, thank you so much. Coach, Aaron, thank you guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you both. Appreciate you guys.